Oil is no normal product. Of the myriad ways in which it is unique, 7 bear consideration for the utter change in circumstance the world is about to find itself in. Under normal circumstances, prices are the result of the relationship between supply and demand. Should supply rise while demand remains constant, prices will drop. Should demand rise while supplies remain constant, prices will rise. The inverse for both statements is true as well. This concept is called price elasticity, and it holds true for everything from skateboards to bread to potted plants to construction workers. Oil is different. Because oil is central to everything from the shingles on your roof to the phone in your hand to the spatula in your kitchen to the pipes and hoses in your plumbing to the diapers on your kid to the paint on your walls, a slight increase in demand for oil or a slight decrease in supply for oil results in wild price swings that are most assuredly not proportional. Perhaps even more important, oil is the transport fuel. No oil, and your car doesn't work. Neither does that giant container ship bringing you that shiny new washing machine from Korea. You must have it. The details vary from place to place and time to time, but a good rule of thumb is that a change in demand of about 10% results in a price shift around 75%. During the 2000s, when supply and demand were particularly out of whack, it didn't take long for prices to increase by 500%. Similarly, when the American subprime bubble burst in the context of a global financial crisis, the subsequent drop in demand quickly made oil give back some 4/5 of those price gains. All products travel the ocean, so all products face a degree of risk moving forward, but all products are not created equal. Whether you're evaluating the supply chain of cut lumber or mixing bowls, pretty much everything has different sources and supply routes that can become active as the market dictates. Oil is different. Since everyone has to have it, and since only a few places produce it in exportable volumes, the transport routes are far more concentrated. Even more problematic, the thickest of these supply lines are very long. Flows out of the Persian Gulf must travel between 5,000 and 7,000 miles to East Asian destinations, between 3,000 to 6,000 miles to European destinations, and 5,000 to 9,000 miles to North American destinations. Other minor suppliers aren't any better. Venezuela, for example, has on occasion shipped crude around South America and across the Pacific to northern China, a 12,000-mile journey that is the world's longest supply run, literally longer than halfway around the planet. Oil tankers are pretty easy to identify. They travel slowly, and they have little choice but to stick to the shortest possible route, which is already pretty long. For most of those oil shipments, there are no good alternatives. Nearly all oil that originates in the Persian Gulf must use the Strait of Hormuz. Even bypass pipelines have limited use since they terminate either on the eastern side of Hormuz or in the Red Sea, where shipments still need to go through either Suez or the Bab el-Mandeb. Bypassing the Strait of Malacca still requires punching through the Indonesian archipelago at a different location. And in the end, the terminus point for a lot of these shipments is an unavoidable location of difficulty, whether it be in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, the Sea of Japan, the Mediterranean, or the North Sea. One of the many transformative impacts of the order was the combining of the entire world into a single market. With few exceptions, products can flow from areas of high supply to high demand. For most products, this mellows any price shocks because there is typically extra stuff somewhere that can be used to pour fresh supply oil on troubled demand waters. Oil, with its price inelasticity, does the opposite. Any sudden change in supply or demand rapidly ripples throughout the entire system. For example, the Asian financial crisis of 1997 to 98 may have only impacted oil demand on the margin and only on a regional basis, but those small changes crashed the price of crude by more than half, globally. This locks much of the world into a bit of a suicide pact. Any disruptions that occur in any production zone or along any transport route will reverberate through the entire world. there will be a few exceptions, which fall into two general categories. First are those proto-empires that are able to militarily command shipments out of specific nearby production areas. Such interjections will not typically be clean, easy, or welcomed by the oil producers, but they will happen nonetheless. The second set of exceptions involves the major powers who produce the crude they need internally, and so can block exports with a few pen flicks or switch flips. In both types of regional systems, the economics of oil will echo models established in the pre-order world. Each system will have its own supply and demand mechanics, its own security risk premiums, its own crude grade patterns, and above all, its own pricing logic. The easiest of these pockets to predict is the United States. Most conventional oil wells take years of work to bring online, but shale wells only need a few weeks. Expect any price spikes in the soon-to-be sequestered American market to be easily ameliorated with a fairly even-keeled price structure topping out at roughly $70 a barrel. Canada will be brought along for the ride since all meaningful Canadian export infrastructure terminates on U.S. territory. A close second is Russia. While Russian civilian technological acumen has all but collapsed since the Cold War's end, so too has Russian industrial capacity. The end result has freed up 5 million barrels of oil and around 10 billion cubic feet of natural gas for daily export. The Russians have never been slaves to modern capitalistic norms, and the future will be no exception. Russian shortages in capital, labor, and technical command will erode away all of those exports. Under any scenario that doesn't involve mushroom clouds or extreme civil breakdown, the Russians will have more than sufficient energy for their own needs, at least until the early 2040s. And since Russia will in essence be a closed system, internal energy prices will be precisely what the Kremlin decrees them to be. Argentina is likely to experience an oil system not all that different from the United States. Despite some wildly creative approaches to economic management, Argentina already has the world's second most advanced shale sector, as well as all the infrastructure necessary to bring local shale output to its population centers. France and Turkey also look fairly good. Both are proximate to regional energy producers: Algeria and Libya for France, Azerbaijan and Iraq for Turkey, as well as sporting the local technical skills required to make those oil patches work. That said, securing said output will require a neo-colonial approach to their regions, and that will generate drama. The United Kingdom, India, and Japan are up next. All need to venture out, but all have naval forces more or less right-sized to reach potential sources. In this, the Brits have the easiest jaunts to make. Norway provides local supplies, while